be not the easiest example to explain, but I do want to go through it with you so that I can, if you've got any questions, I can try and answer them. But what we will do is distribute this Excel spreadsheet so that you'll be able to go through the formula and actually see what's happened yourself. So if you do miss something, definitely ask questions, but we'll also send you out the spreadsheet as well. I can control the mouse.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's all right, I should write. But this was the Excel spreadsheet that was provided. And the first question was to calculate the EOI per report. And so that's for each one of these. Each one of these is a different report in each row. Calculate the EOI for that. So the way that I approached it was for per report to first of all calculate the numerator, so that's the top part in the equation for the EEOI. So here I have the total main engine fuel consumption times by, you can see it says fuel E5, and that's because, move this out of the way, it's fuel E5 is on the fuel tab, and it's linked to E5 heavy fuel oil, and it's the carbon conversion factor. Fuel E2, oh no, 3 will be for the marine diesel oil. So going back to the equation, here we have heavy fuel oil times the carbon conversion factor for heavy fuel oil. We have the total main engine MDO times the carbon factor for MDO, and so on for the auxiliary HFO times the HFO carbon factor, same for MDO, and also the boiler consumption for HFO and MDO. Just as a note for Excel, I dragged, so that I didn't have to write this formula out several times. What I've done is, because we don't want the fuel, when we drag the formula down, you'll see that the row changes, so now we're on the second row, but we don't want these values to go any further down. We want to keep them in line 3 and line 4. So if in Excel you put these two $signs before the column number, which means it won't move columns if I paste it sideways or drag it sideways. By putting a $sign next to the row number, it means that it's not going to pull it up or down. That's just something for Excel, using Excel. So having calculated the numerator for every report, I then calculated the denominator, which was the capacity, so the amount of cargo on board, times the observed nautical miles, so that's the observed distance, tons per nautical mile. So then that leaves the EEOI for each report being the numerator divided by the denominator. I've used a formula here in Excel called if error. That's because you can't actually divide anything by 0. It's not possible. So if you don't have this if error, you get an error message come up with an Excel. So this formula here, if error, means if there is an error for this value, i.e. the numerator divided by the denominator, then put the value 0. So if there's an error, use the value 0. If not, they're just going to use this value that's given. Okay, so that's the, and I basically just double clicked on the corner and that drags down the formula right to the bottom. And it is around to the -6 as well. Okay, so that was the first part of the question. Second part of the question was to calculate the EEOI. At the moment, I'm just going to hide this. We needed to calculate the EEOI per month. So what I've used here is, first of all, I've used a formula in Excel to calculate the month, or tell me the month that's recorded in the month corresponding to this record here. Ah, looks like I have a problem. Always good to check these things. I've actually clicked on the wrong one. I'm going to have to move that down. That will change things slightly. Okay, so the month here, you can see that it's the 1st of January 2013, 7th of January, and then it goes to February. I think I can't quite see from here. Oh no, this is still all the 1st. So in this row, you can see it go to February, March, April, May, June, July, all the way up to December. So to turn this into a voyage, so every time the month changes, we want to create a new voyage. Well, not a voyage, but a new reference to calculate the EEOI. So I put in the first value as 1 manually, and then I can say if if this month number is equal to the month number before, i.e. they're the same, then I just need to put the same reference number. However, if they're different, i.e. oh, come on, move down. Here, these two values, the month numbers are different. So in that case, it says to do the month number before and then +1. So here you get your month number. And then with the rolling average, what we want to do is sum all of the fuel consumption times the carbon factor in that month. So how I've done that is to say if this value is the same as this value, then we just want it to go blank, and we want to find the end of the month at which we're going to sum. So then here, when we get to the end of the month, these two are different. So for the last day in the month, we're going to then put the value 1 for voyage 1. So for the numerator, I need to unhide all this. Used. For the numerator, which is sum of all the heavy fuel oil consumptions, we actually summed them for each report in this column, so I've used those. So the formula actually says if this value here, which is the voyage reference number, is blank, i.e. these ones, then put blank into this column. So if it is equal to blank, put blank. But if not, what we want it to do is sum all the values in this column P but only if, so that's why you've got sum if, only if W33, which is this value here, is equal, only if column U, that this value, this column here, is equal to this, the reference number. And I think I need to escape, or is it just stopped? Yeah. So does that formula make sense, or do you want me to run through it again? Or is it one, have you used this before? Sums and ifs. Yeah. So this is just another way that you can put it in and utilize Excel. So that basically sums all of. Yeah. I can go through that again. Learn some Excel tips as well as shift energy efficiency. Can they see me as well, or can they only see? Oh, in that case, they can see me pointing. Yep, okay. I can maybe stand up and point it out. See if they're okay with it. Yeah. They get more complicated, the formulas as well. Yeah. Just while we're waiting for a response, I'll run through that again. So the formula is saying, if W3, so if this value here is blank, then put a blank. So for all these formulas, this value is blank, so that's why there's blank here. But if it's not, saying sum only if this column here matches this value here, and then if it does, the column that we want it to sum is this one. So it's going through and saying this matches, this matches, this matches. So up there, all of these are being added together. Yeah, does that make it any clearer? Did you get any response? Yeah, okay with that. The same for the numerator, where instead of summing column P, you're summing column Q. And then for the EEOI, you're dividing the numerator by the denominator, but if the column's blank, you put a blank. So this will be your monthly EEOI for month 1, 2, 3.
You want to add the UI values instead of dividing the numerator by the denominator.
Let's have a look. Equal sum. I have a feeling that this doesn't.
You follow the same procedure, for example, that we followed for the numerator and the denominator.
For like this, summing all of these values. No, it actually gives you a different answer.
Okay.
Hard to explain this. This is just this is maths. I don't quite know how to explain. And let me go to this. Have I got the presentation open? Yeah, this is a division EOI. We'll have a quick look at the formula of the rolling average. Here it's saying that you sum the top row first individually and you sum the bottom row individually. And if there was if this was in brackets,
Yes.
the brackets around here, and then a big sum, then would be using the other method. I'll leave that open. Is that clear for everyone as well? And online? So they actually give different values. Oh, no, it's fine. Oh, that happened to me in my PhD Viva. The computer cut up halfway through for updates. I just remembered we're still on camera. Yeah. So I can delete that one. But it would be just to prove that the sum works equals of all of these. Oops. Yeah, no, it's down to 1. That should be the same as this version. Aha. That would be why. And go up to the top. Yeah, just to prove that that does actually pick out all the ones that have a 1 there. Phew, I thought that was going to be wrong for a second. And that carries on. You copy and paste the formula down. There it's just blank, so it's put another blank space in. You've got all the monthly ones. There is 1 month, I think it's month 10, where there actually isn't any laden voyages. It's sailing and ballast for the full time, but we'll have a discussion between the difference between ballast and laden in a minute. Remembering that in ballast, you've still got a fuel consumption, but because the cargo goes to 0, your EUI goes, you're dividing by 0. Yeah, so bear that in mind, and we'll come back and talk about that in a minute. We've done per month, per voyage, and this is considering ballast and laden as separate. The way that I've done this is first voyage number I put as 1, and then to identify if there is a voyage, if there is a voyage change. This gets complicated. Go through and do it manually, or this is basically saying if, or one of these 2 things are correct. So this is the first thing it could be. So if both if both E3, that's this value here, is equal to sailing, and E4 is equal to port arrival, and those 2, so it's sailing and port arrival, then put the voyage number plus 1 that's gone off the screen. Or, going back to the or, if this one here equals port arrival and E5 is port departure, then do the voyage number plus 1. So I'll show you some examples later on where we've got a voyage. So here the value changes, so we're using this value rather than keeping it the same. And that is because here E13 is equal to sailing, E14 is equal to port arrival. So that meets that condition, and therefore we use voyage number +1 rather than just using the same voyage number as above. That kind of makes sense? Yep. And then the same goes for when we have, I think it's voyage 5 and 6. Yeah. Same for arrival, no. 7. We've used this here as, here it's going straight from a port arrival, but this port arrival doesn't have a sailing value above it. However, I'm still going to class it as a voyage because when it's in arrival condition, it doesn't have any speed, but they have recorded and observed nautical miles. And oh, okay, stop. Oh, I can't move the mouse. Actually, it doesn't report for this one any fuel consumption. But realistically, the way that you group voyages, there's nothing specified in the EOI calculation. So really it's up to the company's interpretation. They may pick arrival departure and they decide to split ballast and laden. So even if you've got it slightly differently, not ballast and laden, the loading and unloading and things, even if you split it slightly differently to me, that's not necessarily incorrect, because this is one of the uncertainties and vaguenesses with the EOI. But as long as you get the main principle of how to split it up. So that's how I split it up per voyage. And again, I've used a similar equation to this. So it's saying if if this isn't blank, then for every row that has a 2, i.e. equal to this value, sum numerator, sums them all up again. That's for the voyage number, H voyage, which can either be ballast or laden. And then because you're dividing to 0 in the ballast voyages, you're getting this 0 value, or you're getting this error, which I changed to a 0 value for the EEOI. So then it asked you to do including the ballast and laden together. I've gone with the approach that the ballast for the voyage, for the laden voyage, should be included in one voyage, mainly because I've considered that you're ballasting to pick up cargo and therefore you're delivering it back, and then ballast to a cargo and then bring it back. But essentially you could do the laden followed by following ballast. Because the first voyage starts with ballast, we've got this first one, and then what we're looking for the results to do is to group laden and then this ballast one down to here, which the formula I've set up doesn't appear to do on here, but I did have it working on my laptop. Sorry for this. I've got that should have changed. Let's have a look on what I've got in here. Sorry about this. See if I can also figure it out. So for this one, We've got a loaded value. Or report. I think what's missing is I need to copy control copy. Comma, comma, comma. Okay, so hopefully now voyage 2 includes, I think we've gone a little bit wrong here. But essentially includes 2 voyages. However, something has gone slightly wrong. This spreadsheet, it might have been an older version. Do you mind if I try and change it quickly? I'll just take this one. And start there. Control C. And then I want to take sorry everyone. Would it be good to pause the video or just my control copy? And then 10 instability 9 10 control V 9. Nope, I've messed it up even more now. Anyway, I can send this one through. One. Am I being very silly? Actually, like ballast. Do you know what? I'm being very, very silly. This one is ballast and followed by laden, so we're looking for all of this to be one voyage, followed by all of this to be one voyage, which it actually is. I just got confused there. So that goes down voyage 2 includes, and that's per month. 1 minute. Voyage 1, voyage 2. Yeah, and then voyage 2 includes voyage 3 and 4. Okay, so it is okay. I'll maybe leave you to look through those formulas a bit more in depth once you've got that in front of you. Basically then, I plot for each voyage per month, I plot the date and the EOI here, and then I've put them all over time. This is where I'd got to in creating the answers, but we can discuss them slightly. First of all, I think we'd start with the per voyage, because we've got some very high results here that I don't think should be there. Add data label. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 4. Spot. That looks like one of them. That's around voyage 17. This one's particularly high. We kind of want to work out why. Okay, so first of all, it is all a ballast voyage. It doesn't include any I think I know why. 17 to 17, that's 16 changed. But here, the loaded amount, so the capacity on the bottom, is only included in one of the records. However, you've got I think so we're dividing the sum of all this by just the one cargo run with actual cargo. So this is demonstrate what, look, really I think this is to do with my formulae. Really, this ballast voyage should be part with this laden voyage. So I'm going to go and adjust that, and that's just looking at inconsistencies in the reporting or changes in operation that they've ended up, this ship has ended up going from ballast, laden, there's no port, there's a arrival sailing, and then there's no other arrival, it goes straight into departure. So that's where the formulae have come up. There's been a bit of a problem there. I can correct that. But just looking for general trends. So we've got here, I was going to add, this is per voyage, per report. This is per report, so you can see how the EEOI changes, especially for ballast, it will come down to 0 or error. And that does the same for, copy. The voyage, which is the green one. Voyage. You can see that it all goes down to 0 at intermittent data points. Format data series. No, Imagine there's a line in between them all, not the line. Per month, because you're not really considering the ballast voyage where you've got zero cargo being transported, you find it averages the fuel consumption over the amount of useful work done. You have the 1 month that went into ballast, so that's something you've got to really watch out for. That was fully ballast, because it skews the idea of your EEOI result. And then up here is, if we've got this one, and here we take off the one per month, that one, and the green one. If we add the ballast and the voyage laden, the ballast and laden voyages together, we get a different EUI pattern again. And so that's considering per voyage, but inclusive of ballast and laden. So this influence factors that you need to take into account with the EUI. There's anything else you can discuss? One kind of look into and consider is if your transport, what's the proportional impact of carrying more cargo or using better, achieving better utilization of your ship, i.e. the cargo transported at distance increases, what's the proportional impact on the ship? Like, does the fuel consumption go up in the same proportion? But hopefully, what I'll do is I'll fix this, and then I'll send it out, and I'll put some comments under the graphs as well, looking at maybe reasons, trying to look at why it goes up in certain periods and down in others. Yeah. Are there any questions?